Hi, welcome back to ODE YouTube channel. My name is Paulo and I'm here again for the Diamine, the Inkvent Calendar, the Red Edition for 2021, and we are almost in Christmas. So I may ask you, do you already have your list of gifts that you want to receive, the list of presents that you want to receive? Just curious about that. So we are going to this that has the little snowman there and see which ink we have here. When the windows are very close to the other ones, when you do that, it's very easy to rip these and open the other one, but unless you want to keep the box complete, you don't worry about that. If you worry, I think you can just, I'm not sure if I can show it to you. You can just open it here in the bottom there, and maybe you can slide the tray outside, but I didn't cheat on that one. So let's see what we have here. And this is Wonderland. Nice name. Wow, shimmer. And it seems to be a very light color. No, it's standard. I was getting worried because there was no shimmer. This ink is so transparent. You can clearly see how transparent this is. So, what do you think? Is this usable? Let's check it. And so I'll be right back with the rest of the review. And let's see the swatch of this Wonderland. So standard ink, very transparent, I would say very pale. So I've seen some of these inks to be really opaque, to the point we no longer see the lines on this Rhodia grid paper. I suspect this one is really different, very transparent. So this is the swatch. Let's wait for it to dry and I'll be back to complete the review. And here I am again with the Wonderland, and the Wonderland gave me this very beautiful swatch, a bright orange but not very saturated, so you can see completely the grid pattern of the sheet of paper beneath the ink. And how do I compare this ink with others so you can have an idea of how it looks like? Let's start with two inks from the Diamine Inkvent Calendar, which are one from 2019, the Gold Star, which is yellow and a little darker yellow with gold shimmer, and this one without shimmer but the same color as that one. And you can see these are much yellow, a very dull dark yellow. I have three more inks here for comparison. Another one is the Peach Punch from the day 10 of the calendar from 2021, and you can see this is a pinkish salmon color, has nothing to do with that one. So let's put this one a little bit aside, and we have other two. One, let me put this one here. We have the Mont Blanc Lucky Orange, which is a very bright, intense orange, more saturated than that one. I really enjoy this ink. I like it a lot. It's a very good substitute for red ink because it really pops out. And then finally I have this one, which is the closest one, is the Jacques Herbin Orange Soleil. And this color, I would say it is the same. Even the lighter parts there, like they look like the same. Maybe this is a little, just a little more saturated, but I would say they are around the same ink. This one has less water in it, if I had to describe them. Maybe I'm not right about that, but that's the way I would describe these inks. So the Jacques Herbin Orange Soleil is the most similar ink. Then we go to the chromatography that I made. So again, the same process as always. I always draw a line with a deep glass pen, or a glass dip pen, I'm not sure, glass nib dip pen. I draw a line there and let it dry. I know it's not the way you usually do this, but I let it dry to see how really water resistant it is. Otherwise, there was no water resistance to be seen by that. So I dip it in water and let it flow. So this one has yellow and brighter orange and not much more. So I would expect no water resistance, and where the smudges got some, where the drops got into the ink, I would not expect any smudges, any pools of kind of a darker tone. I would say they will be completely white, completely erased. I have the three types of papers I always use, but first let me show you the pens I chose for the video. And I chose two pens again. This one is the Hongdian 960 in orange. It's more kind of a bright yellow than an orange, I'm not sure. And this one has a fine nib. I hope you can see it there. It is a nice pen. I really think it's good, it writes well. And the other pen I chose is, let me take this out because this is messing the exposure. It's this one with ink inside. This is the Pelikan M200 in kind of a demonstrator, but in an anthracite color instead of being like a smoke, instead of fully transparent. And it has also a fine nib, but I chose it because Hongdian fine and Pelikan fine are not the same at all. The line width is very different. Also, the ink flow is very different between the two pens. So let's start looking at the papers, and we'll start as usually by the moleskin paper. And what can we see? We can see the ink is quite well behaved. I don't see much problem of feathering, but there is lots of shading in both pens. The line is not that different, but I can tell you for sure that the Pelikan that starts here has a wider nib, has a broader nib than the Hongdian, and also the Hongdian is a drier pen than the Pelikan. So the shading is a little different, but you can see shading in both. There is not much of bleed through, which is quite remarkable on moleskin paper, but that's more a characteristic of the paper. It's more characteristic of the ink than the paper, because the paper usually allows for bleed through. Again, the ink is quite light. It shows a little darker here on camera, so you can read it, and you can read it well, but it doesn't show as much contrast as you can see there on camera. Then we go to the Oxford optic paper, and Oxford optic paper is usually a good paper for two special things. First, it is very well behaved, but one thing it allows is for wider shading of the ink and to show us some sheen. But as I showed you here, there is no sheen to be seen. There is a little bit of some sheen, but it's because ink is heavily applied there. So there is, let's forget about the sheen, but we can see the shading. And you really can see there is a lot of shading. So again, if you like an ink that gives you a hint of autumn, this is the kind of ink, because it's very shady, it's very shading, and it behaves well on paper. Here, no problems with bleed through or anything like that. Finally, we will go to the Navigator copy paper, and yes, here you can still see some shading, although the shading I think is more visible on the Hongdian, because this paper is absorbent, but no bleed through also. So this ink reacts quite well for these papers which are not as good. So here you have old inks as usual. They look the lighter on the Oxford optic paper, then we have the moleskin paper, and finally they look darker on the copy paper. And you can see that also by that little kind of swatch. This is the darkest. And finally, we'll go to the final writing sample and drying test on the Rhodia dot pad. And on Rhodia dot pad we can see that I wrote this with the Hongdian 960. We have the drying time of 25 seconds, which is not bad at all. And when we look at this, we see what we predicted here. So where the drops of water were, and then I soaked the rest of the water with a paper towel, everything that was there, all the information disappeared. There isn't even a halo of orange ink, nothing. So no ink, no water resistance at all, but it has its advantages. It's very well behaved on paper and it dries relatively fast. I'm feeling this video will be a little shorter than others, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes I have more to say about some inks than others, and this is a nice ink. It can be used for marking text, but it is beautiful, but it's not that exciting to me. So the most exciting orange that I know of is the Mont Blanc Lucky Orange. So until I find a better one, I always compare all the other oranges with that. Now, let's see the two pens in action. And with the Hongdian, again, the fine nib there, we'll write here the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. I know that my handwriting is not nice, but that's what I can do. And here the Pelikan M200 ink on my fingers, with also a fine nib, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. And here you have the two writing samples with the two pens, same ink, and you can see there is lots of shading, if that's what you're looking for. The color is beautiful, but I would say it's not that useful for regular writing, but for text editing it is quite nice. So this is all for today. 2 days to go. I will meet you again tomorrow for the day 24. Bye.